Hello everybody and welcome back to Random Vids. So last week I did a video where I talked about all the Disney movies that I have seen before. I've only done about a little over half of them though. I did the ones from the 90s era and I decided to rate them based off of how much I really liked the movie. Obviously I only did ones that I've seen. Ones that I've seen like maybe one time a long time ago and never touched again, I did not count them. And because the video was going on for so long, that I decided to wait to do the ones from the 2000s until another new video. And, well, it's 1 week later, so I think this is a great time to dive into those movies. So the 2000s and 2010s definitely are an interesting genre for Disney, because it wasn't necessarily, I would say, their greatest years. Well, the 2000s especially wasn't one of their greatest years, although I do say the 2010s, I think they did have some good movies in. Then we get to the 2020s. That's where we start to maybe not lose hope, but also where Disney movies just don't feel like Disney movies anymore. They just feel like, I don't know, they're dumb. Well, anyway, with that, let's get started in the 2000s era. The era where it had some very interesting movies for sure. It started strong and ended strong, but the middle of the 2000s were a little interesting, so let's get to the first movie from the 2000s. The first movie we have is a movie called The Emperor's New Groove. So this isn't one of those movies that I've seen as a kid. In fact, this is one that I've seen when I was a lot older. I don't remember what got me into this movie, but I was just like, let's just turn it on and watch it and see how it is. I think the main thing is because I've heard of the villains Yzma and Kronk before. I don't remember how and when. It was probably on YouTube somewhere. So I decided, let's sit down and actually watch the movie full out to see how it is. And I mean, it is a really great movie, that's for sure. The story is about a selfish emperor named Emperor Kuzco, where he plans to take over another one of the main characters, Pacha's house and his village. But Pacha and Kuzco go on a road trip, and Kuzco changes his ways. So there's another road trippy type of story, which ain't bad, because like I said, I do like the road trippy type of stories. Plus, I like seeing Kuzco and Pacha's, friendship kind of develop as the story goes on. And as time goes on, Kuzco becomes a more, he's not quite so selfish as the movie goes on, which is really great to see character development come from Kuzco. But of course, let's be real, the characters who steal this movie are Yzma and Kronk, 100%. This duo has to be, in my opinion, the best Disney villains of all time. Bar none. There is no villains that even come close. Not even Hades from Hercules, and he's a great villain as well. But Yzma and Kronk, man, their dynamic just works so beautifully. It's not even funny. Yzma's your typical, villain, but she also has a lot of fun one-liners as well. And then, of course, she has Kronk, who is just kind of dim-witted, but also hilarious as well. And I love how he's used as not as kind of like the I'm stupid, so we'll try to find some dumb ways to make people laugh type of thing, but I love how they, that's not just his personality, because he is more than that as well. He loves animals, for one, and he's, what's the word? He cares for other people, too. So he isn't just like this big old, bad guy. Heck, he later portrays Yzma in this movie and turns to the good side, so that's cool and all. He was so popular, he got his own movie, which is great. So, I love the villains in this movie. And the main character's story is great, too. It's just one that I'm more like, which one's better, them or the villains? Well, no, duh, the villains. But I love all the other side characters we have in here, too, like Pacha's family, or the guards in the castle. There's just so many there's so many great characters, in this movie. This is an easy 5 out of 5, by the way. I love this movie, even if it isn't a nostalgic childhood one. It's an easy 5 out of 5. For comedy alone, as well as characters, and story is great too. So it's definitely one of the best movies from Disney, and it's probably my favorite from the 2000s era. I'm going to say it is my favorite from the 2000s era. There's one other one I'm thinking of that is popping into my head, but even that one isn't beating this one. I'm sorry. With that, let's move on to the next movie from the 2000s. I honestly don't even know which one it is. And remember, we're not doing Pixar either, so we gotta find one that isn't Pixar, so let's move on. Next movie in the list of Disney movies is Lady and the Tramp 2, A Scamp's Adventure. Oh, so this is the first sequel that we're talking about. Yeah, there is a few sequels that I have watched. So there will be a few that will be on this list. Like I said, I'm counting sequels and live actions. So anyway, as you all know, I do like the original Lady and the Tramp. It's a great movie. It's kind of cute about dogs and stuff. Well, what if the sequel was focused on their only son, Scamp? Well, it would be definitely very different from the original Lady and the Tramp, and honestly, it is very different from Lady and the Tramp, even though it has basically all the characters from the original movie, and it is put into this one, even if they're shown for like a split second, like C and M. But, you know, most of the characters from the original movie are still in it. Plus, we have a lot of brand new characters, too. Obviously, Scamp, who is now our main character, who is Lady and Tramp's only son. And he wants to go out and explore the wild. I've definitely seen this story before, but hey, it's a movie about puppies, so I ain't gonna complain. As the movie goes on, he grows a bonding friendship with a character named Angel, who definitely I'd say is falling for Scamp as well. So those two have a cute little puppy romance, which is adorable. And of course, we later find out that everyone from the junkyard that Scamp is now staying with doesn't know that Scamp is Lady and the Tramp's son until he realizes, I guess, as time goes on, like they share the same traits and stuff. I mean, they look very similar, so I don't know how that doesn't give it away, but I mean, there's that. I remember watching this movie for the first time back in early 2018, and I just couldn't look away. I liked the movie too much. I had to keep watching it. I remember it was at night. I think it was like around midnight or something like that. This was the first time I ever watched this movie, and I forget what I was watching. It might have been a TV, it might have been my phone, I forget. But I remember it was like midway through the movie, and I turned it off, and I was just sitting there in bed like, I can't just stop this midway through. I gotta know I can't wait 24 hours, so I turned it on and finished the rest of the movie. So, I was just too curious. I was too hooked into the movie to, you know, kind of stop it midway through. I also like how they actually have villains in this movie. The original movie, there isn't really any villains. I guess it's mainly Aunt Em. She isn't really even that much of a villain. And the live action, she is. We'll talk about that a little later, though. But I do kind of like what they did. A few problems. I mean, this does kind of have that sequel writing in a way. You can kind of tell. But I also do love Scamp. He is a very cute character in this movie. And the only problem is, I don't know why, but I don't understand. I've never understood this, but I don't know why he's voiced by an adult. Can't he be voiced by a kid? Because isn't that what he's supposed to be portraying? I didn't see him taller than Tramp. He's not an adult, so I don't know why we're having an adult character, you know, voice it. Nothing against the voice actor, of course, but it's just something that's like, well, he's a puppy. Shouldn't we have, you know, a kid voice him? I don't know. That's just something that always bothered me about this movie. A few other things. I wasn't really a big fan of the music in this movie, but I wasn't a big fan of the music in the original either, so I guess there's that. And the villain, Buster, he's just your stereotypic bad guy. And same with Reggie, too, who's, I don't even know what they were doing to Reggie. I will say, I do like the characteristics they try to give into the dog catcher, because they try to make him kind of this comedy relief character, and he sort of works. I don't know. Yeah, this movie ain't bad, but it's not one of my absolute favorites. I'd say this and the original Lady and the Tramp honestly could be a good tie. So I'd give this one probably about a 3 out of 5, just like I did for the original Lady and the Tramp. It does do a great job with the story. I love the characters for the most part, but it falls short in a few choices they added, like boring villains, Scamp being voiced by an adult, and the fact that the music is once again just kind of But I still love Scamp. I love his character development in this movie, where he realizes what he did was wrong, and he's just a cute character overall. He's, like I said, I'm a sucker for these Disney animals, especially dogs and cats. So yeah, it's going to get higher points than probably what many other people would give it. But hey, I like the movie, so what need I say? Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have another sequel, and that is Cinderella 2. Now, unlike Lady and the Tramp 2, I've only seen this sequel a total of one time, but it was kind of more recent, so I figured I'd add it. As you know, I do like the original Cinderella. I think it's a great, classic Disney movie. So I was interested to see where this sequel went. And I do kind of see what it's going for. Basically, there's three stories that kind of are all together, and I don't know, it's hard to describe it. They did the same with the sequel to Beauty and the Beast, where there's just a bunch of different stories. There's three different stories, and it's kind of like, I forget who's telling the story here, but we go to the first story, then we move to the second story, then we move to the third story. I don't remember what the first story was about, but I do remember the other two, so I'll briefly talk about them. I remember the second one was about Jack the Mouse, and he wanted to see what it was like being human. So he ends up being human, but he also has to, kind of lay low and not let people know that, he's the mouse. Because now there's just random human walking in the castle. No one knows who this guy is, except for the mice. I don't remember too much about this story. I just remember Jack turns human, and then he doesn't at the end. He turns back to a mouse. And then the third one was probably the best one out of them all, was Cinderella's one stepsister, Anastasia, finding true love, which is hilarious. Yeah, what if one of the wicked stepsisters just all of a sudden fell in love with someone? Well, it would create such a hilarious story because the stepsisters are such, wild characters. I don't know what you want to call them, but you know what they are. They're such wild characters, so it's interesting seeing, their personality. They're crazy characters. Even the stepmother. So it's interesting seeing, them once again in this story. The only problem is that this movie doesn't really have a good beginning or end. It's basically just, I think it's Cinderella sitting down and telling, it's probably the mice, I don't remember. But it's basically just three stories rolled into one movie. So I get what they're going for, and I don't mind it, but at the same time, there's just better ones out there. I would probably give this a 2 out of 5, unfortunately. I would give it a 3 if it wasn't for a certain other movie that Cinderella ended up coming up with later on. But because that one just does a much better job with it, this movie would have to get a 2 out of 5 for me. I do like the last story with Anastasia finding true love and kind of separating herself from her stepmother and her sister, but it's just so rushed. And like, if this was the only movie we didn't get the third one, I would rank it higher because I would have loved the way that they did this. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I like what they're going for. Like, the stories are fine. I just think it's kind of meh. There's just better ones out. There's just a better sequel out there. So, yeah, I'm unfortunately going to have to give it a 2 out of 5 for that. And I don't remember the first two stories much either, so there's that. Let's move on. Next up, we have Lilo and Stitch. Honestly, this has got to be the most popular Disney movie from the 2000s, and it does show. I do love what they're going for in this movie, creating a blue alien that they call Experiment 626. But, of course, ends up in the hands of Lilo and her sister Nani, and is now Stitch. So, obviously a very, very iconic Disney character, almost as, iconic as characters like Mickey Mouse. But Stitch is just everywhere, so that's how you know that Disney created a great character. And, I mean, this is a movie I haven't seen much when I was younger, but as older, and obviously once Disney Plus is out, it's nice being able to watch this movie. And I just recently did rewatch most of the movie, just like a week ago. So, hey, what's not to love? This movie's a great movie. It's honestly a lot about Nani raising her younger sister Lilo, while also trying to impress the what's his called? You know the guy I'm talking about, Bubbles. What a hilarious, great character. That's another thing. The characters in this movie are also really great. Between I don't remember the aliens' names, Jamba and what's the other guy's name? You know who I'm talking about. The characters that I heard that got butchered in the live-action remake. But You know who I'm talking about. The characters are just really great. And like I said, even the villains, they're just so they're just big comic relief characters, and like they work, and I love it. I can't really think of any. The only negative I should say is this movie is honestly a little overrated, and the music is definitely overrated as well. Like the one Nani sings to Lilo by the mid end of the movie is just blah. And Hawaiian Roller Coaster is good, but it's not better than any of the songs from Princess and the Frog or Hercules, honestly. So there's that. And then there's the one at the beginning, which is just okay. And I do really like the story. The story is definitely what makes this movie, and the characters are great too. I just think this movie is maybe a tad bit overrated, but hey, it's not bad. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Next up, we have 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. So if you didn't know this by now, I love puppies, and I love 101 Dalmatians. So, of course, I'm gonna like the sequel. And honestly, I do. For a Disney sequel, this one honestly is done rather well. It's also nice seeing that this very old movie being remade, because the fact that it was made way back in the 60s and now having a sequel back in like 2003 is nice. Now obviously there was a few things about this sequel that you're like, ah ha ha, Disney sequel. But it's not as bad as something like Cinderella 2 or even Lady and the Tramp 2, honestly. So the movie stars Pongo and Perdita's son Patch, who ends up getting left at their old house when they move. Kind of like how the series is with the TV show, where you have its three main characters, Lucky, Cadpig, and Rolly, being left at the house. But this time it's their son, Patch. So, okay, kind of interesting how this movie is basically just like the first episode of the 101 Dalmatians, the series. But hey, I dig it. Anyway, he's a big fan of Thunderbolt. Is that his name? I think it is. Kind of like how Lucky is in the TV show. This is literally just the TV show, just swap puppies out. So he ends up finding Thunderbolt, and at some point he ends up getting captured by Cruella de Vil. Because in this movie, Cruella de Vil all of a sudden has an obsession with spots. So she gets this artist to paint a bunch of spots, but it just doesn't do it for her. She wants the puppy. So I guess it's nothing about the clothing anymore at this point. She just wants it because she's obsessed with spots. Okay, honestly, I don't mind this direction for Cruella. It's kind of funny. And I love how they made her kind of a comic relief character in this movie. And I love that Jasper and Horace are still in this movie too, and once again carry some great one-liners as well. And seeing the trio together again is just great. And they're way funnier in this movie than in the original movie, I will say that. Another thing I really liked about this movie is the first time we see Cruella in the movie. I love how somehow, after all these years, her car has still survived that crash, and she ends up driving it, but as she's driving it, it just falls apart. And by the time, the screen pans and we see her car, it's just basically her sitting on a seat with a steering wheel and wheels. It's goofy. Now, this is a movie that I haven't seen in a long time, so it's one that's definitely on my radar to rewatch. This one is probably one of the first ones in line, honestly, because it's the fact that it's such a great movie, and it's been such a long time since I've seen it, but I do remember parts of it. Like, I remember when I remember the climax and how that went. This is a great, underrated Disney movie, honestly. Like, give me this any day over Jungle Book, honestly. I would take this any day over Jungle Book. It's because of the fact that I just think it's much better. Heck, I'd take this over Lion King. Yes, I would. Because of the fact that this movie is actually, I think, really well done. I like what they did with this sequel. And they didn't just butcher things or just have lazy story. No, I like what they did with it. Now, how would I rank this one? Ooh, that's tough. I honestly will give it that 4 out of 5. Now, obviously, it's not a perfect movie. No movie is, but there's certain little things here and there that are just kind of okay. But I can't lie, this is definitely one of my favorite Disney, sequels, and will probably remain as one of my favorite Disney sequels. I'd almost say it's better than the original movie, but overall, both of these movies are great, so this one gets a nice 4 out of 5. Next up, we have Brother Bear. Okay, never mind. Maybe the 2000s weren't as bad as I remember, but when I think of bad Disney movies from the 2000s, I immediately think of stuff like Chicken Little, because I know that's one that not a lot of people liked. But I forgot about maybe some of these movies. Well, for now. But it was also a big Disney sequel era too, and those weren't the greatest either. So, okay. I completely forgot all about Brother Bear, honestly, until looking on the list of Disney movies that, I was going to talk about. I'm like, oh wow, I completely forgot about Brother Bear. And honestly, this movie is pretty good. Like, we have our 3 brothers. I don't remember their names, I just remember Kenya, the youngest out of them all, and he's the one who ends up getting turned into a bear for, I guess, killing a bear who killed his oldest brother. So he ends up meeting a young cub named Coda. Coda is a very curious and just a young cub bear. I don't know how you want to describe him, but he's a cute character, honestly. And him and Kenya obviously go on a great adventure together. He ends up telling him that he's the one who ended up killing that bear, who we would find out that bear that he killed was Coda's mom. So it's a great, the lore in this movie is kind of fun to follow, and it's just a cute Disney movie, honestly. Once again, gotta love the Disney animals. And although bears weren't never really some of my favorite animals, Coda is cute. I do love Coda. And overall, the story in general is just good. It's not one of my favorites, but, for a movie that I almost completely forgot about, it is honestly a pretty good one. So, I'm going to give it, once again, a nice 3 out of 5. A nice average. Next up, we have Kronk's New Groove. Man, the 2000s were literally just random Disney sequels. Whether if those were movies made in the 2000s, 90s, or way back in the 50s and 60s, who knows? Who cares? It was the year for Disney. It was the decade for Disney sequels, that's for sure. And taking one of my absolute favorite Disney movies and making a sequel, hey, I'll watch it. I'm interested to see what they do with this. One of many people's favorite things about the original movie was the villains, Yzma and Kronk. So what if you took Kronk and made him the main character? Because honestly, he could work pretty well as, the new main character. Kind of like how Dory did in Finding Dory. I think she worked fairly well. Maybe not as much as Mater from Cars 2, because, I don't know. He wasn't necessarily one of those characters who could just carry a movie. Not a bad character, though. But we'll talk about Pixar another time. Anyway, so what do we have with this movie? It stars, of course, everyone's favorite side villain, everyone's favorite sidekick character, Kronk. And Kronk is telling the story about how he wants to impress his dad, or as he calls it, his papi, because he wants that thumbs up. The story is already just goofy. Well, anyway, he needs to buy a house on a hill and a wife. Not buy a wife, but he needs to get a wife. You know what I mean. So he does end up buying a house on a hill, but it's a whole thing for Yzma. And Kronk, of course, doesn't trust Yzma anymore when he finds out of her of what she did. Then he tells everyone, but they end up keeping his house, which is, nice for the elders, I guess. But now Kronk doesn't have his house. And then, of course, the other story where Kronk is in the wilderness with all of his junior chipmunks, I guess he calls them. Well, anyway, there's another lady out there who has her own group as well, and they both start a big feud. But as time goes on, they grow to like each other and even, love each other. It's got to be one of the most silliest but cutest relationships in any Disney movie. Both of them just bond perfectly together, and it's just wonderful. So, unfortunately, it was sad to see them kind of break up by the end of that story. But I love how they made it where, by the very end of the movie, she came back, and I guess they began dating again. Or began dating, because who knows, we haven't seen another movie since this. We, of course, had the TV show, but it's nice seeing, a story about Kronk for once. And because him and Yzma were some of the best parts of the original movie, it's nice seeing him star in his own movie. Unfortunately, though, I do think the story isn't as great as the original movie, so that definitely loses a lot of points. And the fact that the graphics aren't the greatest either. And we're once again telling these two-story type things, kind of like Cinderella 2 or the one Beauty and the Beast movie. But at least it's only two stories instead of three. And honestly, the first story is kind of boring, not gonna lie. Even though Yzma is in the first story, I don't know, it's just not my favorite. I love the second one way better with the Junior Chipmunks. But I do like how we did at the end get that thumbs up from Puppy. I would give this movie a 4 out of 5. I wouldn't give it quite that 5 out of 5 like Emperor's New Groove, because that movie did a lot better with the story. Where this one, it did good in the story, but it just didn't match the original, honestly. And some of those comedic moments were gone in this movie. But hey, it's still a great movie in my opinion. Plus, we didn't get to see much of that Yzma and Kronk dynamic. We saw it a little bit, but it wasn't a lot. So, and they both were great together. They still do good separately, but they're even better when they're together. Well, anyway, let's move on to the next movie, because there's still a lot to talk about. Next up, we have Bambi 2. Man, I've seen more sequels than I thought. As I said in the other video, I liked Bambi as a kid, because I've seen the originals so many times. So now hearing that there's a sequel, and I've never seen it before, and I have Disney Plus, well, might as well just hop on and watch the movie. Now, I've only seen it one time, but it was recent enough that I can at least remember parts of the movie. So obviously, this is after Bambi's mom dies, but this is before he grows up. So that's awesome, because something I love is seeing the animals as their young selves, like Bambi, Thumper, and Flower. Them as adults in the original movie were just kind of more, I don't know. I don't like those storylines as much where they just grow up and we're meant to see these characters as cute characters, and now all of a sudden they're grown up and they're less cute. I don't know. It's just not one of my favorites. But at least for this movie, we got to see them as young characters for the whole thing, which is great. Bambi is now following his dad around. And I love how he has a much bigger role in this movie opposed to the original. And how much more of a, I should say, I wouldn't say he wasn't a loving father in the original, but you could tell he was definitely, you could tell that it was Bambi's mother who was definitely looking out for him. But in this movie, it's nice seeing that his dad is looking out for him great too, while also doing his job in the forest. And of course, speaking of forest, we still get Thumper and Flower, who are obviously cute, wonderful characters as well. Thumper basically the main bunny for Disney, and I guess Flower's the main skunk. But he's got to be the cutest skunk out of any character, out of any skunk in any movie. But yeah, it's nice seeing these characters again. And honestly, speaking of the word again, this is a movie I'm going to have to watch again, because there's parts of it that I don't remember, but I just remember liking it. Heck, I would almost say it's better than the original, because the original definitely, because it was a lot older movie, there was definitely a lot of scenes where it felt kind of slow-paced in a way. But this movie is a lot more faster-paced, which is really nice. You don't have all that random downtime that doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying the original was bad. I do like the original. But I think this movie expands on that, and it does a great job with it. And people said Disney sequels were bad. I disagree. Not all of them are bad. And not this one. So this one would get, honestly, a 4 out of 5 as well. This is higher probably than I think that I gave the original. So I think this is the first time that I think the sequel did a better job than the original. So yeah, I like Bambi 2 a lot. And I know my good friend Button Bambi Super Kitties does too. His icon to his channel is a picture of, I think it's Bambi from the end of this movie when he's all, I shouldn't say grown up, but when he starts getting a little older and he starts getting his horns for the first time. When he starts getting his antlers for the first time. So, shout out to you, Button Bambi Super Kitties. Hope you enjoyed this video. With that, let's move on to the next movie, which is most likely going to be another sequel, knowing how it's been in the 2000s so far. Next up, we have Fox and the Hound 2. Yes, I saw this movie, and it was more than once, too. Now, I've seen this movie regarded as one of the worst Disney sequels, and I guess when watching it, I can sort of see why people don't like it. But at the same time, there is parts of the movie that I do really like. Like, for example, I do really like the fact that Todd and Copper are young throughout the whole movie. Like I said, it's just more interesting seeing them as cute baby animals instead of just adults all the time. So it's great seeing them be young this whole movie. And I love Todd too much that I don't care that the story maybe isn't as good as the original. Yeah, the story isn't the greatest. It is kind of silly. Copper joins a group of singing dogs and he forgets about Todd. Todd gets upset with him, then they're both upset with each other, and so on and so forth. And this group of dogs ends up ditching a female dog named Dixie because I forget why. Honestly, it's been a while since I've seen this movie too. So Dixie tries to manipulate Todd into getting into, I guess, being the better band. I don't know. I don't remember this movie, and the story is kind of all over the place. I will say that, but I didn't hate it like people said this movie was. Like, I didn't think this movie was that bad, honestly. Yeah, it is. That does have its cringy moments, like the scene where Dixie, Todd, and Dixie's friend are singing and dancing with all these farm animals. That is very random, and it's definitely a complete 180 from the original Fox and the Hound. But at the same time, I didn't hate what they did with this movie. I didn't mind it. Like, I could totally see Todd and Copper going off to the carnival and just trying to enjoy themselves. I also love Miss Tweed and Amos in this movie too, where they're not where I love how Amos isn't necessarily the bad guy in this movie either, because that was kind of one of the more weaker points of the original movie, in my opinion. So seeing him and Miss Tweed have the comic relief moments is hilarious. It's basically Amos would barge in, Miss Tweed would get upset and throw a pie in his face. And then they met at the carnival, and Amos's dog Chief ties her up by accident, and I think she ends up throwing another pie in his face. It's just so goofy, and I love their friendship in this movie. Although it does kind of ruin how the first movie goes, because by the end of the first movie, that's when Miss Tweed and Amos are friends. Although I don't think they're friends. I don't remember. I gotta watch it again. It's been a while since I've seen. I just remember liking Amos a lot better in this movie than in the original, just because he became the comic relief character, and he works much better as a comic relief character than a villain, honestly. I don't know, I just liked him as a comic relief character. Well, anyway, I like the dynamics between him and Miss Tweed, too. So, yeah, it does kind of destroy what the original movie kind of did, where at the end of that movie they became friends. And at that point, everyone was grown up. But, once again, I don't mind. This movie's harmless enough. I mean, it's not as good as the original story alone, but once again, it was nice seeing Todd and Copper just be great friends throughout the whole movie, and seeing them be adults. So, I will give this movie a 3 out of 5. Yeah, I will give it a 3 out of 5. I don't mind giving it a 3 out of 5. If it would have been any cringier, or if the songs would have been, and if there would have been more songs, and if it would have been stupider, then it would have gotten a worse score. But it wasn't that bad. Like, I don't understand the hate that this movie does get. I do understand why it wouldn't be as good as the original, or if it wouldn't be everyone's favorite Disney sequel, and it ain't mine either, but I don't mind what they did with it. I think this movie is a little overhated, in my opinion. With that, let's move on. Next up, we have Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. Well, remember the sequel movie? Not that much. The second movie, it was just alright. But man, this third movie is honestly a direction that I could totally see Cinderella going in. So the evil stepmother ends up stealing the fairy godmother's magical wand. So she changes it back in time before Cinderella and Prince Charming ever met. And the evil stepmother dresses up Anastasia, not dresses up, but makes Anastasia look like Cinderella, so then Prince Charming falls in love with Anastasia, because Anastasia is the one who kind of wants the boyfriend. I love how they're sticking to that story of the second movie where Anastasia falls in love. The only problem is, didn't she already fall in love? Why is she back with the evil stepmother? Oh, anyway, we can pretend the second movie doesn't exist, okay? Let's pretend the second movie doesn't exist. Well, anyway, as time goes on, Anastasia starts feeling guilty for the way that she's treating Cinderella. And she ends up eventually turning to the good side, which I think is just such a great, wonderful, just fun, different way. What if one of the classic bad guys turns good? And I love how they did that with Anastasia. It's just great the way that, the story ends up working out. So, and I love how the evil stepmother is actually, once again, evil in this movie. It's not just a bunch of whatever the second movie was trying to go for. And man, this movie is done so well. Like, I honestly really like it. Now, it's a movie, once again, I do have to rewatch. It has been a while. It's another one on my rewatch list, but I remember watching it and really enjoying it. So, honestly, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I'm going to push it above, the other two 3 out of 5s. Because I do really like what they were going for in this movie. Like, the story is great, the characters, once again, are great, the character developments are actually in a Disney sequel. This is well known as one of the absolute best Disney sequels of all times, and it shows. Once again, it's a movie I definitely have to rewatch again, but yeah, it's a great one for sure. Let's move on. Next up, we have Bolt. So I talked about this movie in my top 10 favorite Disney movies, and my opinions on the movie has remained exactly the same. So, in order to keep this video kind of moving, because I did kind of stop to talk about a lot of those Disney sequels, we'll kind of keep it moving a little bit with some of these going forward. But overall, I do love Bolt a lot. I would give this movie probably like a 4 out of 5. It's just such a cute movie. I love the road trip story with Bolt, Mittens, and Rhino. And Bolt's cute. He's a great character. So it's fun seeing, his story of trying to get back to Penny. So yeah, this movie gets probably like a 4 out of 5, like I said. I like Bolt. It's a cute movie, and it's just a great story movie overall. So what else need I say? Plus, once again, it's another Disney animal, so what else need I say? And I love the scene at the beginning where we show Bolt as a puppy. Adorbs. Next up is The Princess and the Frog. Man, I could sit here and talk about Disney movies all day long, because as you can tell by the length of the video, we're not even done yet. Which is why I kind of got to keep it moving. So, I'm pretty sure you all know the story of The Princess and the Frog. So, I'm not going to necessarily talk about plot as much. I'm just going to more talk about my opinions on the movies. Personally, for seeing this movie only twice now, I like it a lot. And the main thing about it for me is the music. The music in this movie is wonderful. It's got to be one of the best soundtrack movies of all time. No wonder this was the ride that replaced Splash Mountain, because of the fact that they could just add all the music to Splash Mountain and call it a day. Because man, there's so many great songs, between the opening song Down in New Orleans to what's that one, Almost There, that she sings to her mom, and we get to see that cool kind of like cartoony section, to Going Down the Bayou. That one's another really great one. It's very catchy. And of course, one of my favorite songs in the movie, and one of my favorite Disney songs of all time, Dig a Little Deeper. I love the gospel themed songs, and this one is just wonderful. It makes you want to get up and start dancing. And Mama Odie is a hilarious character as well. There's just so much to love about this movie. And it's a movie that I've grown to like more as the years have gone on, mainly just for, kind of appreciating it more, I guess. And also the fact that I've seen it now more than once, so I'll give this movie a 4 out of 5. It's a great one. Next up, we have Tangled. I remember seeing this movie tons when it first came out. So this is a very, very big nostalgia movie to me, because of the fact that I've seen it so many times. Now, it does get to the point where I have watched it so many times that it does get a little over-repeating, if you know what I mean, because I've seen it so many times. The last time I remember watching it was way back in early 2021. But I've seen it so many times then that I already know the whole plot and everything that's going on. And that's something I'm not going to talk about, because of the fact that we got to kind of keep this moving. Overall, I would give this movie probably a 3 out of 5. Maybe not as high as the other one, as like Princess and the Frog, because of the fact that I've seen this movie to death, and the music isn't as great in this movie either. I mean, some of the songs are good. Like, what's the one? Mother Knows Best is a good one. And He's Got a Dream. That one's a pretty decent one, too. But, I don't know. It's not as good as the gospel songs from Princess and the Frog. And, once again, like I said, I've seen this movie so many times, so it's just kind of okay to me. But it is definitely a great movie. It's just not one that, I tend to watch all the time. But, yeah, nothing else I gotta say. Let's keep moving. Except for, of course, the fact that we are now out of the 2000s and into the 2010s or 2000 teens, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, we'll have an interesting amount of movies here, so let's keep moving. Next movie is Wreck-It Ralph. Oh man, a movie about video game characters, of course it's going to be a good movie. And yeah, it is a good movie, but kind of like Tangled, I've seen this movie to death. It's another one of those nostalgic movies to me, because of the fact that I've seen it so many times. So we already know how the plot goes. It stars a bad guy named Wreck-It Ralph, and he meets a young girl, Vanellope von Schweetz. Ralph lives in the arcade, and so does Vanellope. And they end up befriending each other to stop the evil King Candy. And that's the movie. I mean, it's done really well. I've just seen this movie so many times, so, you know. And the music is nothing special in this movie either. There isn't really any music in this movie, but it's a good movie overall. This would be another one I'd give probably about a 3 out of 5. I almost want to give it the 3.5 just for the video game theme. And I honestly might, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 for now, because I have seen it so many times. But yeah, overall, it's definitely a really great movie. So yeah, nothing else I have to say, so let's move on. Next up is Frozen. I gotta say, this has got to be one of the most rewatched movies for me of all time, because of the fact that it came out back in 2013, and I've just seen it so much when I was a kid, because we all loved the movie. We all loved how, you know, the story went. And it is a really good Disney movie. Like I said, this is another good era of Disney movies, the 2010s. And they just nailed it with Frozen, honestly. Now, once again, kind of like Tangled, it is to the fact that I've seen this movie so many times that it has become kind of overplayed for me. But why is it overplayed? It's because it's such a great Disney movie. Although this one isn't quite first in line for the rewatches, I do definitely want to rewatch some of those Disney sequels again. Like, you know, 101 Dalmatians and the other one that I mentioned, Cinderella. So this one isn't necessarily first in line because I've seen this movie so many times, whereas those I've only seen once or twice. And, I mean, I will say the story for this movie is really good, featuring two sisters, Anna and Elsa. And Elsa has magical powers. Snow. So, okay. There's also, once again, this movie just has a lot of great characters. Between Olaf the Snowman, who's just your typical comedy relief character, but I think he works really well in this case. And of course you have Kristoff and Sven, who are another group of hilarious characters. But Kristoff is one of those characters who isn't there to be a comic relief character, but he's still funny in the whole movie, just how awkward and goofy he is. And I love him and Anna's dynamic in the movie. There's obviously one big thing I do not like about the movie. One certain song that became the most overrated popular Disney song of all time. We all know what that is. I don't even need to tell you what it is, so we can move on from there. Other than that song, the other songs of the movie are honestly really good. They're better than the Tangled songs, I'd say. The one that Anna and Hans sing together are really great. I love the Fixer Upper song, which is probably my favorite song in the movie. And I also like the one that Olaf sings about summer, which is just great. This is just a great movie overall. I look back on it and I'm like, it's kind of a nostalgic movie, even though I've seen it so many times. I always compare this one to Tangled, but honestly, I like this one better than Tangled. For the music alone, and the characters for sure, definitely are the main reasons why Frozen, in my opinion, is much better than Tangled. I don't know what I should do with this movie, though. I want to give it that 4 out of 5, but something's telling me no. So for now, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. Because I do think it's better than a lot of those ones I gave the 3 out of 5 to. But I've seen this one so many times, and that certain song definitely does push this movie down a little bit. So it's definitely a very overplayed movie that I've seen to death. But it's such a great, monumental movie for Disney. And it's one I have a lot to say about. So, yeah, it's a good movie. It's just not one of my absolute favorites. So, let's move on. Next up is Big Hero 6. Well, here's another movie that I've seen to death. I've seen all the 2010 movies to death, especially the older ones. And that's just because, honestly, a lot of these ones have just been done so good. I feel like after the backlash they got from things like Home on the Range and Chicken Little from the 2000s, they definitely did a better job with the movies from the 2010s. Once again, though, this movie does get ruined just because of the fact that it's been overplayed to death for me. So it's one of those movies that I've seen so many times. I just recently rewatched it last year, back in 2024. So pretty recent to me, at least, because of the fact that I've seen this movie so many times. And it's another movie that I'd probably give about a 3 out of 5 to. So nothing else I gotta say. It's a great movie, and I also love how Betamax is our comic relief character, but I don't know if he's necessarily trying to be like Olaf is, but he's still a hilarious character. So what else need I say? Let's move on. Next up, we have one of my absolute favorites, Zootopia. I remember when this movie first came out in the movie theater, and I immediately was like, this has got to be one of the best Disney movies that I've seen in a long, long time. Because I had just seen the rewatches of Tangled, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, and Big Hero 6 to death. So having a brand new Disney movie with animals in it automatically made it just wonderful. And I love our main characters, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde. They're just a great duo. And I love the story in this movie too. The story is just done beautifully. And I love the way that it's portrayed in this movie. And there's a lot of great characters. Like, every character in this movie is great, between Judy's parents and, you know, the villains. The 2010s was definitely an era for the surprise villains. But I ain't complaining. I don't mind them. There's also loved the scene where we get to see the flashback of Nick Wilde when he was a young fox. Adorable, by the way. And overall, this movie is just constructed so well. I love what they did with it. I've already talked about before my top 10 favorite Disney movies, so I'm not going to really talk much about the plot, because you already heard me talk about it, and we once again got to keep this moving. But, oh, this movie is just so good. And to this day, it's one of my absolute favorite Disney movies of all time. This is an easy 5 out of 5. Like, it's better than Emperor's New Groove, in my opinion, but I'm not sure if it's better than Oliver and Company. Those two clash on whatever one is my favorite. And yes, I am aware that they are making a sequel this year, which is wonderful. I can't wait to see how this movie is, because it's easily one of my absolute favorite Disney movies of all time, so I can't wait to see, you know, what they do with this sequel. But, hey, I'm here for it. I'm interested. I'm invested. Overall, this is easily one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. The one thing I don't like about the movie is the only song that's in it, Try Everything. Overplayed, overrated, blech. Moving on. Next up, we have our first live-action remake, and that goes to The Jungle Book. Remember how I said I wasn't really a big fan of the original Jungle Book to begin? Well, the same thing applies to this movie. Now, I do think it's not terrible, and I do think this movie is, you know, it's kind of overhated in a way, but I'm also not the type who's just, like, so fond of the original that I just point out every single, you know, horrible thing about this movie. I don't mind what they were going for, you know, in this movie. I do like the main character, Mowgli, in this movie, and arguably almost better than the original. And, you know, the scenery is really nice, but it's just a Jungle Book movie to me, and some of the characters are kind of butchered. Like, King Louie is just this big gorilla thing now, and Baloo, I don't know. The songs I would say are at least better in this movie, but, you know, I'm not a big fan of the Jungle Book songs to begin with. There is one character who I did really like, though, and it's kind of funny because he's not even a main character, he's one of the side characters, and that is one of the young wolves named Gray. I don't know, I just find him adorable. The runt of the litter, I guess. But I love the way that he's Mowgli's best friend in this movie. He's just a cute character. But, I mean, he's a Disney character. What else need I say? He's cute. He's an adorable little wolf. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Jungle Book. I'd give it a 2 out of 5, because it's just not my favorite. Next up is Moana. So here we have another movie that I've seen to death, and that is, of course, the 2016 movie Moana. I've seen this movie so much as a kid, it's not even funny. But, I mean, once again, it's another just great Disney movie. You have Moana and Maui, who are both just great characters. Maui's a hilarious character who is a great friend to Moana. And I love seeing their dynamics in this movie. And then, of course, you have the chicken, who's Chicken Hey Hey, who's your, I guess, comic relief character. And, of course, Moana's pet pig, Pua, was a cute piggy.
and unfortunately doesn't join them in this adventure, but there is a nice little sequel that we'll talk about in a sec. But yeah, I've seen this movie to death, and it's another movie that I'd give probably. I'm going to step it up and give it a 3.5 out of 5. If this is a movie that I wouldn't have seen as much, maybe I'd give it that extra boost to the 4, but I've seen this movie once again to death. So, yeah, it's definitely one of the last Disney movies on my radar to rewatch, because I've seen it so many times. So, and I do like the music in this movie too. It definitely has a lot of great songs. Even the slower ones aren't terrible either. So, yeah, let's move on. Next up, we have the Beauty and the Beast live-action remake. Alright, we have another live-action remake, so everyone's favorite thing ever. I didn't mind them back in the day. As time goes on, though, it's kind of like, really? Like, why are we still doing live-action remakes? Let's just have a new Disney movie for once, huh? But I guess Disney's too afraid to do that, because they're afraid people aren't going to like it. Really? Come on, Disney. Look at the stuff you've made. You made Frozen. You've made Encanto, so I don't want to hear this crap that you can't make a good Disney movie. What, you made Wish? No one liked that? Then you made the horrible Snow White remake and no one liked that? Well, that was kind of your fault, Disney, okay? Like, you gotta actually, treat these movies with respect. Well, anyway, moving on for that. We have Beauty and the Beast. I'm a big fan of the original Beauty and the Beast. It is a movie that I've seen a lot of times, so it does get a little lowered because of that. But this is a brand new movie. Now, yeah, it does kind of get ruined because of the fact that it is a live-action remake, and a lot of the animations in this movie are very weird. I don't hate it, though. It's not the worst Disney like, I'd take this one over the Jungle Book remake, and I like the new song that the Beast sings. It's pretty interesting. I think that's really all I gotta mention about Beauty and the Beast. I'd give this one like a 3 out of 5, honestly. It's definitely not as good as the original, but I didn't mind it for what it was. Next up, we have Ralph Breaks the Internet. So here, we have wow, okay, we actually have a sequel to Disney that actually just doesn't feel like one of those silly sequels from the 2000s. No, this is a full, put-together movie. And I don't mind it, honestly. Is it my favorite? No. But I haven't seen it as much as I've seen the original, so it definitely gets points of not being overplayed. But I will say the story is definitely weaker in this movie than in the original. Ralph just seems way too overprotective of Vanellope, if you know what I mean. Like, he just doesn't want to let her go, and that does kind of ruin the movie for me, because of how just insecure Ralph is in this movie. But I guess he does kind of learn his lesson by the end of the movie. But it took the whole movie for him to learn his lesson, so okay. I never got that thing with this era of Disney where they had to make, not even Disney, but just in movies in general, where they had to make main characters say goodbye to each other. Like Ralph and Vanellope in this movie, and we later saw it in like Toy Story and Frozen as well. Well, why? Oh, why are you doing this? Like, it's stupid. I hated it, but whatever. Eventually, I'm sure we'll get a Toy Story 5 and a Frozen 3, so who knows. Overall, this is a great, okay, not great, but it is a decent sequel to the original. I'll give this one, I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. I want to put it higher, but Ralph himself gets a little annoying. Next up, we have Aladdin. So what's funny is that I actually never seen the live-action Lion King before. I've heard a lot of negative things about it, so it's kind of pushing me away from that one. I'd much rather just watch the original anyway, if I do ever want to watch it. But Aladdin, I have seen it in the theaters before, and it's just another live-action remake to a movie that I'm not really the biggest fan of in the first place. But, it's Aladdin. The music is once again great, but it's just another live-action remake. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 because of the fact that I'm not a big fan of Aladdin. But at least this movie it seemed pretty good for what it was. So, nothing else I got to say here. Moving right along. Next up, we have Lady and the Tramp live action. I remember watching this movie, and I don't know. I was not the biggest fan of this movie when I saw it. We didn't even watch it in the theaters. We watched it at home when it came out on Disney Plus for the first time. And we've only seen it a total of one time, but I can still remember this movie. At this point, I was kind of getting very iffy about the live-action remakes, and I was just preferring a lot of the originals, and this movie is no exception. I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie at all. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just because because that they're using live action dogs, and nothing against live action dogs, because they're great. But it took away from the cutesy animation from the original, if you know what I mean. Like, just looking at this picture, it's just, I don't know. I just didn't like this remake because I liked the original Lady and the Tramp, but this one, I mean, it's the same. It's just, live action, and it wasn't necessarily my favorite. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. This gets like a 1 out of 5, honestly. If I'm watching Lady and the Tramp, I'll just watch the original. There's no point of watching this live action remake. Next up, we have Frozen 2. Oh boy. Basically take all the good things about the first Frozen and put it into a sequel. And here we have Frozen 2. Honestly, this movie is much better than the original in my opinion, but a main thing of it is the fact that it's not quite as overplayed. I haven't seen this movie as much as I've seen the original. The original, I've seen that movie way too many times, so it got very overplayed, whereas this one, I haven't seen it quite as much. And I do like what they did with this movie. Once again, I love the characters that are going on this road trip. Anna and Elsa, and of course Kristoff, Sven, and our comic relief character, Olaf. And I love the storytelling too. Is it a little confusing to some newcomers? Sure. But once you've seen it like 2 or 3 times, then you'll know where the story's going for. It ain't that hard to follow. And I do really like, the character development we get in this story. And it's nice seeing the sisterly bond in this movie that we didn't see in the original because they were just fighting the whole time. So I do like what they were going for in this movie, and honestly, I think it's better than the original. If anything, it's way better than the original. I like everything about this movie way more than the original. Also, once again, love the songs that they sing. Like, I like the one Olaf sings, "This Wall Makes Sense When I'm Older." It's just another goofy song that Olaf is just there singing. Also like the one that Kristoff sings, "I'm Lost in the Woods." That one's just such a goofy song once again overall. My favorite one, though, has to be the first song in the movie, "Some Things Never Change." It's just such a catchy beat, and I love how we see all of our characters in it. Plus, in this movie, Kristoff is going to propose to Anna, so I just love all the little stories and things that come together. This is such a great movie. The only thing I don't like is the fact that Elsa stays in the forest away from everybody, which is definitely a big shame. So hopefully when we get a third movie in the future, they kind of change that, but this is a great movie. I'd give it like a 5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5. I don't know. It's close. It's way better than the original, though, that's for sure. Next movie we have is Encanto. This is the Frozen of the 2020s, let's just be for real, because this movie is really, really good. Especially since at this point, Disney was really starting to go downhill, honestly, in its movie making. Because and a few years later, they would make movies like Wish and the Snow White remake. Oh boy, did those movies bomb. And I hope Disney has learned their lesson. It's funny because they released probably one of their absolute worst movies of all time, Snow White, and then they released Lilo and Stitch's live action like a few months later. Why would you do that? Disney, enough live action remakes, please. Please make a brand new movie, okay? Okay, thank you, because I'm tired of these. But we do have some great movies like Encanto, and honestly, this one would get another 5 out of 5. It's just one of those movies that, once again, it is kind of brand new. I don't want it to be kind of overplayed like Frozen was, the original Frozen. But at the same time, this movie is really, really good. So it's one of those movies I don't mind seeing, a decent amount of times. It's another one that's starting to get closer on my rewatch list. Another thing I love, once again, besides the story, I love how everyone has these powers. And I love the music in this movie, too. Of course, I like the opening song, and then the one that Mirabelle sings after they unlock Antonio's door and stuff. Those two are just really great, powerful songs. Like, you can tell we're in a new decade. And speaking of which, yeah, this is the first movie out of the 2020s, so we're out of the 2010s era, which is interesting. Anyway, and of course, the most popular song of the movie, "We Don't Talk About Bruno." That turned into a big meme of the time, and honestly, I think that song is now, it's the new Let It Go. Like, it's more popular, I think, than that song from what I heard. It's a lot better than that song, that's for sure. So, yeah, this gets a 5 out of 5 for sure. I love Encanto. It's a great movie. Next up, and probably what I'm going to say is last up in the list, is Moana 2. So this movie came out in 2020, the very end of 2024, and I watched it for the very first time, I would say back in like early December. But then I rewatched it again on New Year's Eve, which is something that me and my family have a tradition of doing, which is watching some sort of brand new movie, like on New Year's Eve. So like this year we watched Moana 2, one year we watched Sing 2, then a year, I forget what all we watched, but it's just been a tradition now. But man, Moana 2. Is it better than the original? I will say that because this movie is brand new, it's at least a brand new story that, isn't something that's been overplayed for me like Moana 1. And I do kind of like the brand new songs of this movie. Not as much as the original, but I do like some of the ones, like Get Lost, that one random character sings that we don't ever see again. Now, here's what I heard. This movie was supposed to be a TV show, but they kind of stitched it together into a sequel instead. It does kind of show in certain scenes, like, what happens to that random bat lady? Like, whoa, what happens to her? Like, that's something that's just very, like, I don't know, there's so many random plot holes here and there. And the story does feel like it goes very fast. Like, next thing you know, they're battling the bad guy, and they win. It's over before you know it. But, I don't know. I don't know if I hated that, or it's just weird, but I don't know, this movie just felt really fast, like really quick than the original, but I don't know if I hated that or I just found it a little different. I do like the new characters we have, like all of Moana's friends. I don't know all their names, but you know who I mean. They're great. I also love how Pua is now on their adventure as well. So we get to see Pua along with, of course, Hei as well. And Maui and Moana, of course, are their great selves as usual, so they definitely carry this movie for sure. There's the characters. The story, maybe not so much, because it does kind of feel like a mishmash of a bunch of different things thrown into one, or it's just random plot holes that we don't know what's going to happen next to these certain things or stories, like the random girl that we see in that one thing. She appears and then she kind of disappears and doesn't appear again for the rest of the movie. It's so random, and I've never seen this before in a Disney movie. So story definitely does kind of lose points, but the characters are still all here, and I will say the story isn't bad. It's still nice seeing, parts of the story. The ending was a little strange, but I didn't mind it. I'd give this movie probably like a 3 out of 5. It's one that only time will tell how much I either love or hate this movie as time goes on, but for now, it's pretty neutral, I'd say, for me. And obviously, as I already said, there will be a Zootopia 2 coming out sometime, I think, this year, which probably will be our New Year's Eve movie if it does come out around then. I don't know when it comes out in the theaters, but it's one I definitely want to see. But wow, that was a long adventure. Even just talking about 3 decades, the 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s, that took over an hour to talk about. Well, an hour for the video, but it took at least almost like 2 hours just to talk about, in person. Well, it took over an hour, I'd say. Not quite 2 hours, but there's just a lot to talk about when it comes to these Disney movies.
Some, of course, as I said, are better than others, but it's neat. I'm going and recapping on some of these movies, seeing which ones stand out compared to some of the others. And obviously, not all are good, and I am very interested to see on the direction Disney does take the movies in the next half of this decade, but yeah, I'm very curious to see how it goes. We're getting, obviously, a lot of sequels and a lot of live-action remakes. So, okay, but what about some new movies? And I mean some new movies that you actually think about and put some proper care and, dedication into, and not just a Lazy Wish or Snow White remake, because, let's be real, that was not true Disney making those movies. The true Disney I know makes spectacular movies like Beauty and the Beast, Emperor's New Groove, Zootopia even, and that was only 10 years ago. But Disney has really changed as years went on too, so I really hope Disney, I still am hoping Disney does do a great job with the second half of this decade, but only time will tell. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. So, have a good day.